This is Support is Sexy, episode 51, with Las Morenas de Espana founder, Sienna Brown. Welcome to the Support is Sexy podcast. I'm your host, Elayne Fluker, entrepreneur, author, producer, and founder of Chic Rebellion Media. 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, I talk to women entrepreneurs who share their journeys and the true stories of their wins and their lessons, and give you insight and inspiration to take your business and your life to the next level. Here we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Support is Sexy. I'm excited to have you here. You know, it just would not be the same without you. So today we have Miss Sienna Brown, who is the founder of Las Morenas de Espana. And I was so excited to talk to Sienna because, as anyone who knows me knows, I have a bit of wanderlust. I always dream about travel on the brain constantly. I am going to live abroad at some point. You've heard me say it. There's my declaration. But Sienna's company I just love because it started off as an online resource for women of color living in Spain or wanting to live in Spain. And today she talks to us about just how her business has evolved, how it's become more of a movement, how she's doing more events, how she has allowed it to take its own shape and really become something that's special to her and that's special to the community of which she's a part of. So Sienna has been living in Spain for 3 years. She started off by going there when she was in college, and it was wonderful just to talk to her and hear her experience with the difference in lifestyle. She's originally from Brooklyn and now living in Spain, and just what she has been able to create. So on this episode, you're going to hear how to listen to the call when it tells you it's time to make a move, 3 things you should know before moving abroad, the benefits of immersing yourself in a culture to learn the language. I love that idea. Why living outside of the quote-unquote big city may be the best idea. Also, the importance of keeping an open mind and remaining creative when starting over in a new country. I would even say in a new city or wherever you're starting over. And then, as I mentioned earlier, evolving your business as your community evolves, but also still staying true to your mission. Sienna talks about that, which I thought was great. She also talks about utilizing partnerships to grow your business. You can do that here, and certainly if you have a business abroad, you want to make partnerships locally especially. She also talks about the importance and the fun of creating events as an extension of your brand. And what I want you to make sure you do is listen to the episode, because Sienna is going to talk about the event that she has coming up this year, and also a special discount for Support is Sexy listeners who want to attend. I gotta tell you, maybe I'll show up and be there in Spain with you, but she does give us a fantastic discount, which we really appreciate. So I know you're going to love this episode. At least I hope you love it as much as I enjoyed doing it. So without further ado, Sienna Brown. So Sienna, I am so excited to have you here. I can't even express it enough. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Yay! So I have to ask you the first question I ask everyone. When did you first fall in love with entrepreneurship?
Wow, that's a really great question. I think it's actually been since I've been in high school. I've had a very entrepreneurial spirit where I was always either creating different clubs in the small school that I went to, or I was doing different initiatives. And then, of course, after I had graduated from college, I was working full-time in New York City, but right after graduation, I think it was maybe a week after graduation, I had started an online arts and culture magazine with a few friends. And so literally right off the bat, I was doing the entrepreneur type deal, but even though I was working full-time. So it's always been something that's been in my blood, I guess.
Right. So something for you that in your way, it allowed you to express your creativity, and then it was manifest as entrepreneurship.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I love that. Now, where did you grow up? You told me before the show, but I need everybody else to know.
Yeah, of course. So I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and all my family's there. I've been there all of my life. And then I spent some of my adolescence upstate New York in a very small town in the mountains. So I have a very diverse background with big city type living and then also the smaller nature type vibes.
Now, what was Sienna like as a little girl?
Sienna was the person who always got in trouble in class for talking to everyone.
Uh-oh.
I was me as a young girl. I was very outspoken. I was very inquisitive. I always wanted to know new things, and I always wanted to be friends with everyone. I fit into a lot of different groups, and so I was someone who valued relationships a lot from a very young age. And also someone who I think, retrospectively looking at it, always strived to be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I can thank my mom for that because she always pushed me to kind of like go the extra mile and take the extra steps to get to where I need to be.
Nice. Now, did you always have this sort of wanderlust about you?
Um, Again, grateful to my mom for that because I grew up in a single parent household, and my mom is someone who she had spent time in the Sudan when she was younger, and she was always traveling around and going to Trinidad and Tobago and a bunch of different places. And so since I was maybe 7, we were either flying or going somewhere, most of the time domestically. And then as I got older, we went to the Dominican Republic a lot, to Jamaica, and on family vacations. And then with my experience living abroad, that started when I was a junior in college, and I had spent 5 to 6 months living in Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
And so once I kind of got that taste of what it's actually like living in a different country long term, I didn't want to stop,
Nice.
and it goes from there. Yeah.
Where did you go to college?
I went to Vassar College, which is a really wonderful liberal arts college in Poughkeepsie, New York.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful for that experience because I grew so much as a person, and I grew so much intellectually, being able to kind of like challenge myself and think in a bunch of different ways. And it also helps because it was a great experience to kind of find out how to link different things that you wouldn't think would go together. And so down the road, it definitely helps. Yeah.
And I think it's so important. That's one of the things that I would say I wish I did when I was in college is take a semester or whatever amount of time abroad. And my friends and I joke about it now and say we were so sure we were going to miss something by not being around each other for a few months. Meanwhile, we have a friend who went to, she's a year older than us, I think, but she went to, I think it was Japan for the semester, and she was gone and back so fast. And it was just
the time flies. The time flies.
First of all, you're only like 19, so what are you really going to miss? And then it's just that's an amazing experience for anybody who's able to do that. Now, in your case, was it part of a program that you were in, or was it?
Yeah, and so the program was actually with the college that I went to, and they had a partnership with a university in Madrid. It's called Carlos III University, and so it's a 5-month program, and you stay with host families, you study in the school, which was amazing because I got to meet and engage with Spaniards, which I think is really important to actually have like an immersive experience instead of just being with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was great. It's a 5-month program, and funnily enough, so the program happens every year, and I'm living in Spain now. And this past year, my program director happened to be doing it again. So I got to kind of participate in the program, but as a mentor, as someone who had already gone through it. And so it was really nice and nostalgic to be able to kind of teach that experience to the college students who are going through it now.
And that's amazing how things come full circle.
Absolutely.
You just never know.
Absolutely.
That's great. Yeah. Now, did you know the language before you moved? Not before you moved, excuse me, before you went when you were in college, or did you learn while you were there?
So, yes, I've been taking Spanish since I was in 8th grade, around that time. And so I'd already studied, but I really, truly believe that studying in the classroom and fully being immersed in an experience is completely different because I spoke the language and I read it and I knew how to write, but having the courage to kind of speak in conversations and try to express yourself in different ways, it really happens when you have to do it. And so when I was living in Madrid, I would say that was the turning point for me, from where my Spanish went from mediocre and okay to really being able to become something that I was more fluent in.
When you were there, when you were in college, is that when you knew that you would want to go back someday, or did that occur later? How does the girl from Brooklyn end up living in Spain?
Yeah, and I think it happened my 3rd or 4th month living there because at first everything's new, everything is very exciting. And I remember towards the end of the program, all of my friends were going home, and I decided, spur of the moment, that I wanted to stay for an extra month by myself, only with my Spanish friends. And so I stayed throughout the month of June. And for me, that 1 month, only hanging out with people from the country and like really having an experience like I was a part of the community is what made me kind of want to come back. And then I remember being back in the States, even being back at school, and then even after I graduated, like life was great. Everything was wonderful, but I felt like something was missing inside of me. And that something missing was being back in Spain with the lifestyle and the people and the culture.
In
what
ways is the lifestyle different?
Oh, where do I start?
Because you are still in a city, but it's very obviously it's different than Brooklyn.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think something that I realize more and more each time that I come back to the US to visit is how fast paced and how focused on work the states are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something that you realize when you're not living in it because I lived both sides. I lived both sides. So I was working in New York, very fast paced, always doing something, and running a business on the side. And so it was always nonstop. And now living here, you kind of learn how to take more of advantage of the community that you have around you. Like you find strangers talking to each other on the street. There's more of a focus on living. Like you take lunch breaks, which is something that seems so simple, but you take time, you take 2 hours out of the day, you're not sitting at your desk and you either meet up with friends or you do it on your own, but you take the time to actually like appreciate the slower moments. And I think that also there's not as much of a sense of individualism, which I think is great because kind of what you're doing with this blog and Sport is Sexy and having people connect and kind of work with one another is something that I think is growing into more of a trend now, which I'm so grateful for. But
Mm-hmm.
I also feel like, especially in big cities like New York, it's very easy to walk down the street or be a part of something and feel like you're not really connected, you know?
You are speaking my language. You are so right. I told I don't know if it was my parents or some friends, but we were just talking about being in New York and the pace, and you get, there are a lot of things to love about New York, but being a
Right.
native New Yorker, this when once you're here, you get it. I have to consciously make connections with people walking down the street. Otherwise, you're just thinking about what you have to do or where you have to go or what's next. It's
Right.
not even that you don't mean to connect with people, but I have to look
Mm-hmm.
in someone's eyes and smile, which usually people are like, "What's wrong
Or
with her?
like, what's happening?
She's
Why are
crazy.
you
Yeah,
looking at
why are
me?
you
Yeah.
smiling at me?" Exactly. And then the other part of it is I say, living alone here, I have plenty of friends here, but was telling someone I go for days sometimes without seeing someone that I love,
Wow.
which is crazy. When you think I talk to people all the time, text messages, my friends and I are on group me, all that stuff. But I just think, wow, it's been a week since I've seen someone that I know personally and love.
Wow.
So it's such an interesting thing. So I understand that idea of being conscious of having your community around you and that kind
Yeah,
of thing. In my
absolutely.
mind, I'm going to live in Spain one day. I just haven't made that move yet.
Let me know when it happens. I will help you make the move without a doubt.
Now, what's the first step that you took to make the move finally? And what year did you finally do that?
Yeah, so I'm in a few days, it'll be reaching on year three. So I moved September of 2014, and I made the decision, I think, the March of that year because I was living in New York. I was working an amazing job right out of college. I had gotten two promotions in the same year. I was very blessed, but I just
Mm-hmm.
felt like something was missing and I was kind of going too fast.
What industry were you in when you were in New York?
Yes. So I was working in communications and marketing, and
Mm-hmm.
I was working at a sustainable branding firm, which was in Dumbo, Brooklyn. And I loved it. My job was so amazing, but it just wasn't what I needed at that moment. And so I knew about the program. So I had moved originally to teach English and through the North American Cultured Language Assistance Program. And so I knew about the program for a while, but I wanted to work, save up some money, and I knew that applying was very easy. And so I decided in the spur of a moment, okay, this is what I need to do. And then once I get there, I'll figure the rest out. And I'm really glad that I did because I kind of kept an open mind, saying that at first I wanted to go back to Madrid because that's where I had community and that's where I kind of had a sense of stability. But the program had placed me in Murcia, which is a town that I had never heard of
Mm-hmm.
before I moved. And it's in the southeast, and it doesn't really have a lot of fame in the country because it's not a very touristy place. But I could not be more grateful that I was placed here and that I decided to take the leap and do it, even though I was kind of going in blindly. Like, even Wikipedia doesn't know much about Murcia, you know?
Right, right.
And so when I did, the first couple of months were very terrifying and very lonely because it's not only just moving to a new city, state, country by yourself, but it's kind of getting used to the pace of life again, all of that. But after month 4 or 5, I fell in love with the city, and I honestly can't imagine myself living anywhere else, which is crazy because especially everyone's like, oh, you're not going to move to Madrid, you're not going to go back. But I have no desire. If I want to, it's a quick train ride away. But here's really where I've gained a community, and it feels like home. which is
Right.
nice.
That's interesting. And like you said, it's a quick train right away. I was going to ask how far is it if you did want to go to Madrid? So it's not like you're out away and just somewhere where you can't be reached or you can't reach what you want to reach, I should say.
Exactly. And Madrid is only a 4-hour train ride. And the crazy thing is that public transportation and transportation is so cheap where I can get a round trip train ticket for maybe 35 euros, which is so great and so accessible, especially because a lot of the business that we do, I have to go to Madrid for it. So, for example, in the next 2 weeks, I'm going on an entrepreneur retreat in Javea, which is maybe 2 hours away. I'll be there for a week and then going to Barcelona for 3 days and then going to Madrid for another 3 days. But traveling within the country is so easy and it's so accessible to get where you need to go.
Right. And then I would imagine being outside of a touristy area is good for someone who's living there long term, too.
Absolutely, because it kind of gives you an opportunity to actually like make connections with locals without having them feel like you're just passing through,
Right.
because in the bigger cities, tourism is so popular. So people are there for a week, for a month, for 3 months. And then once you start to make connections, then it's like, oh, but you're gone again.
Right. People know they feel that there's going to be a turnover at some point.
Right.
Interesting.
Right.
Now, what are 3 things you would say that women should know before making a move like this? Or 3 things that you wish you knew before making a move like this?
That's a great question. Okay. Number one is making new friends takes a lot of time and effort. It takes a lot of time and effort. And that's something that I didn't realize before I moved because I'm someone who's very social and I love meeting new people, but making the meaningful relationships, it'll take the time, it'll take the effort, it'll take the kind of shifting through people to make sure that you have the core circle of people who will inspire you, encourage you, and kind of be there. Number two, something else that I wish I would have known is that something else that I wish I would have known is that Spaniards are very family oriented. And I think that it's something that's very interesting because you'll have people who are 30, 40, who are grown people, but they still go to their mother's house every day for lunch, And it's just the type of the culture, it's so family based and people care so much about spending time with their family. It's wonderful and it's so beautiful and heartwarming. And that's something that I'd always heard about, but I never really saw into action until I got here. And the third thing is, I think that one of the biggest stigmas about moving abroad is thinking that you have to move abroad doing the job that you want to be doing right off of the bat. And that's something that I learned because I think that when you move, you have to be open and willing to be creative and think outside of the box to kind of get to where you want to be. Because one of the questions that I get so often is, oh, well, I'm a certified psychologist or chiropractor or whatever, and I want to move to Spain. So how can I get a job in a company right when I get there? And it's kind of understanding and being open to the fact that it might not necessarily work like that. Maybe you have to go doing something else like teaching or au pairing or volunteering, whatever it might be. Go make the connections. And then as time goes on and you get to know people, you get to know the system, you get to know how it works, then you can kind of work your way to doing what you want to do in a different sense. Because I still teach English part-time, but since moving here, I've started and grown a business that's now doing phenomenally, but I didn't move here thinking like, oh, well, I want to have a business, have that support me full time and go from there. But it's kind of being creative and making the way.
Right. That's great advice. And did going into a program, like you mentioned, the one with you teaching English, was that helpful as well? Because I don't know if they have resources to help people who come there to teach and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I definitely think that it's helpful in the sense of it's really great for financial stability.
Right.
Because I work, for example, I'm going to be very transparent. I work 12 hours a week.
Yeah.
12 hours a week, which is nothing. And I make 700 euros a month, which is enough to cover rent for my 2-bedroom apartment and to have time to get comfortable. Yeah.
I'm moving there tomorrow.
Yeah, and that's something that's also something that I think not a lot of people realize. The cost of living is so cheap, and of course because again I'm in a smaller city, I pay 400 euros for a 2-bedroom apartment with my water bill included, which is nothing, and so that allows me to live comfortably, not worry about finances, and be able to still have enough time to not just grow a business, but to also like have time to be social and connect with other people along the way. and travel as well.
And travel. So smart. And like you said, that peace of mind is worth that bit of
Right.
time.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Now, what do you love the most about Spain
Hmm.
and about where you are, which sounds like a great city?
Yeah, I would say something that I love the most about this country is there are so many things. I think something I would say I love the most are the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I've just met so many wonderful, warm Spaniards who have just are just so willing to like open up their hearts and their homes and their circles with you to kind of like make you really feel as if you're a part of their community. And of course, Spaniards are also they're very much like ride or dies. Like they have the same group of friends that they've had all of their lives. They
Mm-hmm.
still like stay in the same towns. But I think it's so great because once you're kind of a part of the community, then you're in. So like once you're in, then you're in. And it takes time to kind of get there, but if you make the effort, it happens effortless. If you make the effort, it happens.
I love it.
Yeah.
Why
Yeah.
not?
It works. That and also the landscapes. The landscapes and the weather. Like I'm from New York, and since living here, I don't think the weather has gotten under 30 degrees during the dead of winter for me, which is amazing. Like the fact that I can go to the beach in February and March, for me, I'm just like, okay,
This is
I'm
it.
set.
Right.
Yeah.
That's reason enough.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, how did you go about, you mentioned making the connections, and how did you go about, I know eventually you set up the business, which we'll talk about next, which I'm so excited about. But initially, how did you go about making connections with other like minded women or like minded people?
Yeah. Okay. So it's a funny story. There was a couple of months where after I first moved, I was spending a lot of time by myself, just kind of getting a lay of the land. But there was one day where I had to sit down and I was like, okay, Sienna, time to snap out of it. You need to start meeting people and making friends. And so I kid you not, I spent 3 to 4 hours on Facebook, searching different Facebook groups for whatever there was in the community. So Facebook groups, Facebook pages, doing as much research as I could on like people who were into photography or design or travel or whatever it was in the area. And then from there, I just started reaching out. I just started saying, hey, would love to get coffee sometime, X, Y, or Z. And also, I think a great way to do it is frequenting the same places. So, for example, there's a cafe that I go to all of the time, and I've gotten to know the owners so well. And not only has that led to me being introduced to other people who go to the cafe all of the time or to their friends, but also leading to different work opportunities, which is awesome. So, like, for
Mm.
example, this Saturday, I'm actually collaborating with them they're starting to like host brunch. So I'm doing the videography for the promotion. And so it's like things like that you don't do with an intent of, oh, I'm having this relationship to like get ahead in business or whatever. But once you just start getting to know people, then it works itself out.
Right. And they get to know you and what you do just through conversation. And then you never know what
Exactly.
can open up. That's great. That is great
Exactly.
advice. Now, at what point did you decide to create your fabulous online community, Las Morenas de Espana? Did I say that good? I love
Yeah,
Spanish and I'm not
perfect.
great at it.
No,
What
you're wonderful.
what need does it fill, and when did you have this moment where you said I want to create a community, especially for Black women?
Yeah, absolutely. So this actually happened before I moved. I remember it so clearly. I was on the 2 train going to work one morning, and I had remembered that I was Googling a lot about communities of women of color or women of color in Spain. And everything that came up on Google was either a negative story or Black people shouldn't travel to Spain or Spain is racist. And
Mm.
there were all of these really negative experiences that me, having lived in the country, had never personally had. And so in my head, I felt very frustrated. Like, why are only these negative stories being told, and why is there not more of a positive spin on it? And so started writing down the mission statement, the name, and it all came to me. And then it just started. It just felt very natural. And then the next step was kind of to reach out to women who are already living here and to kind of hear their stories. And it comes from a really important need because I think that because Spain is such a homogenous country, Spain is very everyone who lives in Spain is basically Spanish, but in the past 20 years, there's been a ton of immigration. And so a lot of the people of color who are living in Spain are African immigrants. So there is this somewhat, not as much now, but there's a sense of tension between Black people who are African immigrants and Spaniards because it's a thought process of they're coming in, taking our jobs, all of that silly stuff. But something that the flip side of that is that there are so many people of color who are here and who are kind of paving a way for themselves and who've been living here for 5, 10, 15 years and have started their own businesses and are giving back to the community and everything. But none of these stories are being told. So I had started the site to kind of, quote unquote, redefine the Black experience in Spain, but not just to change the narrative of like what Black people are doing in Spain, but also to shed light on all these people who are doing wonderful things. Not only that, but to also educate and connect more with the Spanish community to kind of like have them also understand that there are people of color here who are entrepreneurs and singers and teachers and who are doing really great things that they might not have necessarily known of before. And that's something that I also love about the brand because we really try and make an effort to work with Spanish brands as well, because I think it's so important to, when you're living in a different country, to not just be stuck inside of your own bubble, you know what I mean? But to really integrate and become a part of the community.
Now, did you launch the business before you moved? I know you came up with the idea and had the mission statement and all of that, but did you do that before you moved or once you were there?
It launched in October. So I had made the move September 15th and it launched in the beginning of October. But we had already had, so it was very
right after, right.
Yeah. And so we had already had a lot of content. I had gotten a lot of content and stories and interviews from women who were already there. And then as time went on, Danny Roseman, who had started out as one of the contributors, she had been living there for a while and she's very established, she's married and all of that. And she kind of grew from just being a contributor to now being the community and content director. And like, we're now best friends because we work so intimately with one another, literally all of the time to help with the site's growth and everything.
I love that. Now, what support does the site offer? And for everyone, we will definitely have a link on the show notes page so people can go there and see the beautiful work that you're doing. What support does the site offer women?
Yeah, absolutely. So it offers everything from different, of course, the blog aspect of it offers different articles that talks about resources, not just educational resources on how to kind of integrate yourself in the community, how to learn the language. It also kind of helps shape and navigate the conversation of what life is actually like abroad. So I know so many people who are still in the States. The majority of our readership is actually in the US for people who want to make the move and they're not necessarily sure how or what steps to take. And so we try to really provide content that reaches both people in Spain and in the US. And it was amazing because a couple of months ago, we realized that the site has reached every single country in the world.
Wow.
Yeah. And so for me, that was just a very eye-opening moment to realize that resources like this are necessary and are wanted and don't exist as much as they should, you know? And so I think it's really grown, having just started to be something that's specifically for women of color who are living in Spain. It's grown tenfold where we now have male contributors and where we now create content that's not Spain specific. So for people who are of any type of like race or ethnicity or who are just interested in like creating a meaningful life no matter where you're based, they go to the site for inspiration and knowledge, which is great. And then there's also the physical aspect where we also provide different guides. So if you're looking to move abroad to Spain or different travel guides for a few different cities, we offer that. We also offer travel experiences where we curate, say that you're taking a trip. We actually have a client who's taking a trip to Spain now or in October. And so we're putting together like a romantic getaway for her and her partner in Barcelona. And most importantly, we have events, which is my favorite because it's kind of taking these online relationships that people have and putting them in the same space. So introducing really dynamic women, bringing them into the same space and having that lead to long-lasting, meaningful relationships.
Awesome. Now, what was one of the recent events that you were really proud of that you guys did?
Yeah, I know that we'll talk about the conference later, but the last event that we did was in Barcelona. But before that, we had one in Madrid. And for me, I think it was the most important because there were over I think there were 40 to 50 people of color there in a space that we had gotten. It's a restaurant and cultural space in Madrid, in the heart of Madrid, and we had it all for ourselves. And for me, it was the most successful just because you found so many women, not just living in Madrid, but who had traveled from different parts of the country. Not only that, who were only in town for the weekend, who decided to spend their time in Spain, like with this community, getting to know one another, getting to kind of just like congregate. And the speaker, her name is Nicole Angela, and she's phenomenal. She's been living in Spain for over 10 years, and she recently started her own business. And she spoke about the importance of kind of sharing our own stories and creating our own stories. And so often the media or society likes to like create our stories for us. But she was talking about the importance of what it is to actually kind of like be the person to tell your own story and like be the person to like reshape that narrative.
Right. I always say control the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah. Because if you don't, then someone else will.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, why was it important? As you mentioned, you started as a community and then you've grown to now offering travel packages and doing events, which we're going to talk about, a really great one you have coming up. Why was it important for you to look at how to grow beyond just having it be excited as a community or a blog, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, well, one of the reasons is because I really wanted people to see this, not just as a blog, but kind of as, it's going to sound like funny, but like kind of like as a way of life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I want people, when they think of LMDS and this community and this movement, exactly, they think of it as a movement. They think of it as a way of life. Like, okay, well, I relate to this because I know that I want to be in control of my story and living a life that I truly love. Whether I'm living in Spain, in the US, in Russia, in China, wherever it might be, but also knowing that there are these other like-minded people like me out there who are doing the same thing and who are sharing their stories in hopes to inspire others to kind of pass the baton and now give it to, we'll say, quote unquote, the next generation, you know?
Right.
Because I think one of the biggest things is that so many people want to do it, but the thing that's holding them back is fear of the unknown. So, but how do I get the job? But how do I move there? But am I going to have community? Is it going to be hard? And the truth is, everyone will have their own situation. But knowing that there are people out there doing it and just giving like representation, you know?
Mm-hmm. And is it mostly focused on living in Spain as far as the content? Or as you said, it sounds like it's expanding to just include moving abroad and some of the general things that are a part of that experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that's something that over the years we've expanded where it's not just, it used to be one of my biggest things. I would be like, okay, the content should not just be, I'm a Black woman living in Spain, here's my story, but having things from general travel tips and tricks to a wellness section that we recently started that for me, I think is so, so important because I feel like so many people, I feel like so many people need to focus on wellness so much more. And so we have everything from from articles on like self-doubt and imposter syndrome to like how to feel connected with other people even when you're not living with them, you know? Like, so like even when you're far away from home. And then of course we have the different things like food and drink and culture. But everything from like why politics matter, even if you're not living in the U.S.
Listen, that's one of the articles I was going to talk about. The name of it was "Staying Woke While Living Abroad." Right? It's what I was reading the site. I was like, "This is a favorite," and it says why politics still matter. I love that. That was a really good article. Everyone, again, we'll have a link to the site and I'll have a link directly to that article so people can see it. Now, why is it important, since you led us there, we're on the same wavelength, why is it important for women living abroad to stay woke about politics in the U.S. When that may be one of the reasons that they left the U.S.? Because some people say they're tired of it here and what's going on here and they want to live somewhere else. But why is it important to stay connected in that way, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, so the person who wrote it, her name is Vassar. She's wonderful. She was once a fellow press, and she lives in Madrid. She's actually a part of Democrats Abroad and the Black Lives Matter movement in Madrid. And I just think it's so important because even though, it's funny because when you're living abroad, there's a sense of disconnection where you open your computer and you see all of this stuff happening on Facebook and the news, and your heart breaks and you cry and you're sad and you're hurting. But then it's as simple as you click the X and you're not living it in the day to day, you know? But I think that it's so important to kind of have the conversations, to do the movements, kind of like be as active as you can, because it's still something that's so relevant. And not only that, I think that the way that I think something that I've realized since living here is that America has a very bright light that's being shined on it from the rest of the world. And so many people that I meet know so much about what's happening with the Black Lives Matter movement and with Trump and everything. And so we kind of have this like light being shown on us, where if we're not conscious of it, if we can't speak on it from an intellectual and real space, then they're going to get their information from something that's giving them a completely twisted story.
Right.
You know?
It's all part of controlling, the same thing we talked about with shaping your own narrative.
Exactly. And being informed and actually knowing what's going on and being able to talk about it this way, when people who are living in different countries are actually trying to have an educated conversation about it, you're able to participate without being like, oh, well, I'm not sure, it's what I see on the news, you know? But also I think that the movements that are happening abroad as well within the Black communities, like there's been a lot of like Black Lives Matter movements that are happening even in Europe. And it's just important because it's giving it this like international platform,
right,
you know,
a global community. Yeah,
exactly. And it's so important.
I love that. Now, what would you say is your ultimate vision for the site, the community, all of the things you're doing? What is your vision?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, the biggest focus is on continued growth of the platform and hosting more events. But something that we're in the works of doing, which I'm really excited about, is creating an online community where people can connect. And so creating this bigger digital global platform where people will be able to, like we were saying before, connect with other like-minded individuals and be able to have the real conversations that are necessary, and then later on be able to take those relationships and bring them into real life. And not only that, we're also going to start hosting trips we'll say in the next year or two, but with the focus on, again, not necessarily being like, okay, we're going to Barcelona for 5 days, whoever wants to come, but having something that's theme specific. So if you're very interested in knowing about artisanal wines in Spain, there will be a trip for 5 days where you'll be able to go and connect with other people who like the same things as you do. And it'll be led by someone who's well knowledge, you know?
Nice.
And so there will be one for that. There's going to be one that's wellness based. And the list goes on, but they're still all very much in the works. And yeah, and I think that a lot of people have asked me and or spoke to me about kind of taking the site and the movement just past Spain and making it more international, which is something that is absolutely on the list. But then again, I also want it to be sustainable. So having sustainable growth. But I think that those couple of things, as well as connecting more with the Afro-Spanish community in Spain, because I think that it's so important to be able to have those relationships. And so that's why some of the articles on the site are bilingual, and we're going to be introducing that again pretty soon. And we have a lot of connections with the Black Spanish community that's here in Spain, because I think that it's so important to kind of have these two worlds intertwined, because although our experiences are very different, we can still learn so much from one another. And so go ahead.
No, that's awesome. I'm so excited. I can barely wait to speak. A question. Do you know Janelle Martinez, who has the website? Oh, okay.
Janelle is wonderful.
Oh,
yeah.
Awesome. I used to work with Janelle years ago. Now she's I don't want to say she's all grown up, sound like I'm her mom or something, but she's amazing. But I was just thinking about sites or people that you would probably work with, I imagine partner with, or in some way even just know in the US that are around a similar kind of theme and mission.
Yes, absolutely.
That's
absolutely.
great. Has that been important to you and your business overall, just being still connected or partnering in other ways with other people? If not now, then do you think eventually?
Absolutely. And that's something that's part of the reason why the site grew as quickly as it did, because when we first started, we were connecting and collaborating with so many different individuals, both in the States and here, and just helping share their story, them sharing about us. And again, kind of like along the same lines of Support is Sexy, I really think that it's so amazing. Like by ourselves, we can go so far, but when we go with a group and with other people and helping each other go along the way, you can go so much further and so much stronger. And I'm currently reading this book that's really amazing, and I'll recommend it. It's called Never Eat Alone.
Never Eat
And
Alone?
yeah, Never
Okay.
Eat Alone. And it talks about the importance of connections and the importance of making meaningful relationships. And I was talking to um, the partner with me on the site, Danny, about this the other day, that like I don't think that LMBS would be where it is today if we didn't have the connections and relationships that we have with other people who are also here to encourage and inspire and do wonderful things.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm going to link to that book, Never Eat Alone. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
absolutely. It's by Keith Ferrazzi, Ferrazzi.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mhm.
Now,
Absolutely.
tell us about the Thrive Conference, which is an event you guys have coming up,
Yes.
which I'm so excited about, and why it was important to create events, as you mentioned, as an extension of your brand and your community.
Yeah, absolutely. So Thrive is something that I can't stop smiling because it's
I
something
see.
it's something that's been in the work for such a long time, and I think that it's something that is so important because it goes along with the theme of you should be able to live your best life no matter where you're located in the world. And I think that conferences and things like this that have a lot of educational opportunities is something that's so common in the US. So like you go to New York, you go to California or Florida or wherever, and you have a plethora of conferences that you can go to. But it's something that's not as common when you're abroad. Nevertheless, because I think that I think that one of the biggest misconceptions is that a lot of people, well, some people view living abroad as I'm going to take an 8-month vacation, right?
Right.
So I'm going to take an 8-month vacation. I'm going to live abroad in Europe. I'm going to have my experience, and I'm going to come back and quote unquote start my real life or start my real job. And for me, it kind of breaks my heart a little bit because something that I really want people to realize is that living abroad doesn't necessarily have to be a break, but it can be something that can help you advance professionally and that can help you that you can live a meaningful life with purpose no matter where you are. And
Mm-hmm.
so the conference, the focus of it is kind of bringing together a ton of different creatives, influencers, entrepreneurs, educators, and expats from Spain, the UK, and actually some people are flying in from the US to speak, which I'm really excited about. But it'll just be an amazing opportunity for people to network with those who have already kind of paved the way because we have over 20 speakers. I think we're getting close to 25 speakers of people who have lived here and started their own businesses, have been here and kind of like really made names for themselves. And I think it's so important, especially for the newer expats who are just coming over, to be able to hear these stories and learn and to be able to see that it is possible and that it doesn't necessarily, like your time abroad doesn't necessarily have to be a break before you go back and you start grad school or before you start whatever it is that you want to be doing. But it can also kind of help give you skills and ways to, again, like we were talking about before, be creative and think outside of the box to kind of create the life that you've always really wanted to be living.
I love that. And now I noticed that your speakers, it's a range of people and it's men and women and just all
Mm-hmm.
kinds of experiences, all kinds of industries.
Absolutely. And yes, and that's something that I'm really excited again about this conference because we're opening it up to everyone.
Mm-hmm.
So this is not just something that's for women of color, but it's opened up to whoever in the community wants to come. So we have men, we have women, you don't have to be a person of color, although the majority of people who are going are people of color. But yeah, so we have people from Fro Girl Ginny, who is a huge natural hair and beauty influencer from the UK. We have people like Ryan Turner, who has been living abroad for over 10 years, and he's the president of Democrats Abroad. He was recently just at the DNC. We also have a lot of Spanish people who are coming and presenting. So we have someone, Mara Rodriguez, who's teaching about learning language through immersion, and so she runs a language school in Ronda, which is a small town in Spain. We have people like Erin Corinne, who's been here for I think about 4 years, and she's now an international like singer and teacher as well. And then we have people. One panel that I'm very excited about is navigating Blackness in Spain, but the twist on it is that it's coming from an Afro-Spanish perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it'll be so important to kind of introduce that conversation into our community that we already have and that we've already made. Because I think the Afro-Spanish community, they have their circle and they know their people, but having the two communities kind of intertwine and bring that conversation into our space, I think is going to be really important. So we have women who are phenomenal illustrators and artists who create amazing, like diverse representations of Black women that are so wonderful, to photographers, to people who run. There's actually two sisters who, one runs Poto Poto, which is creating children's books, realistic children's books for young children of color living in Spain who don't necessarily have that representation for themselves. And they also started something called Afro Murcia, which is the city that we live in. And it's just kind of like an organization that does things and creates events as well. So
I love that's an amazing lineup.
Yeah, and there's a lot more. I can't speak about everyone because we'll be here for hours.
No, it's wonderful, and I'll link directly to the conference as well, which is from the main site, right? The link there.
Yes, absolutely.
That's great. Now, one question you were thinking about, you were going to tell us about Support is Sexy listeners being able to come to the event if they want to, which I'm very excited about. Don't be surprised if I show up.
Oh, I hope that you do. No, because also something that's so exciting about the conference is that people are literally coming in from all over the world. We have people flying in from the States. We have a couple of expats who are coming in from the UK, from Italy. So it's really open, and it's not Spain specific. Actually, today we just launched the full schedule of talks. So there's going to be over 18 different talks happening throughout the day. It's going to be a very full and exciting day.
What time is it in? I forgot, or maybe you mentioned it. Is it where you are, or is it?
It's in Madrid. So It's in Madrid, which is great. And then we also have partnerships with this really great hotel brand. And so there's discounts for anyone who wants to come. And speaking of discounts, all of the Support is Sexy listeners get a 15% discount on the tickets, which is going to be amazing. Yeah. And so the code is Support is Sexy. And then when you go to the site and you go to purchase the tickets, you enter that code and you will be set. But it's going to be really great. And it's going to be, whether you're someone who wants to move abroad or someone who's already living abroad or someone who's just really interested in connecting with international people, because everyone who's on this list has such a long, like, all of their bios are filled with so many different accolades, and they're all such, like, there are people who are kind of like paving the way, you know? Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be I was going to say a room full. It's not a room. We have an entire building rented out. So it's going to be a space. Yeah, we have a co-working space rented.
Oh, that's awesome. I was going to ask you, where is it? That's fantastic. I really love this. Thank you so much on behalf of all the Support is Sexy listeners. So everyone, again, we will have the link there and a discount code so you can go and enter it in and go to the event. Now, what are the dates of the event?
Absolutely. So the conference is on Saturday, November 5th from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then I think next month we're going to be announcing an after networking event that we'll have as well that weekend. But November 5th, it's a Saturday and it's all day. And it's in Madrid, Spain. The location is at the Shed Co-working. And we have partnerships with H10 hotels. So
very nice. Yeah. Now that's very much packed for one day.
Yes, there's a lot going on. So each hour, there's 3 different rooms, and then we also have a patio space where there will be vendors and different, like, more cultural activities happening there. But every hour, there's at least 3 different chats happening, whether they're panels or interactive workshops. And for example, one of them is like from idea to income, how to start a purposeful business. Another panel is, like we were talking about before, engaging with activism and politics abroad. Mm-hmm. To another one, making the most of living abroad in your 30s, because that's a stigma that so many people have, where they feel like they're not young enough, or they're too old, or they're too settled, where living abroad is impossible, and it is.
Interesting.
And yeah, so everything from that to even like growing your Instagram community, learning Spanish through immersion. We have some wellness topics as well. So it'll be a very
Now, in the one about moving abroad in your 30s, I think that's so interesting. Do you think you'll also address, or the speaker will also address the idea of people with families too? Because I think that's another myth that people have. I mean, there's certainly things to consider when you have a family, family meaning children, and already rooted in a place. But this idea that, once I have kids, I can't move abroad, or I can't do this. Whereas there are other people who do it and their children have very unique experiences.
It's so true. So Christina, the woman who's speaking for that specific talk, she will not be, but I know of people who are going there who do have children. So, for example, someone recently moved abroad last year with her husband and her 3 kids. And she moved abroad last year. She actually wrote an article on the site of facing your fears and moving abroad, which I continue to link to
Oh,
afterwards. It
please.
talks about how she was very afraid because she had the same fears. Like, I have children. Am I going to ruin their lives? Are we going to be able to make it? Will we survive? And fast forward to a year later, her youngest son is now bilingual. Her and her husband bought a house in Cadiz. Like, they're here for another year. And so it's definitely possible. It's so possible. And like Ryan, who is another one of the speakers, and he'll be speaking on politics, but he's been living here for 10 years. Him and his wife just recently moved to Italy, but they'd been in Madrid for a majority of their time. And he has a son. And so he's someone who would be amazing to connect with to kind of talk about what it's like living abroad with children.
Yeah, and the thing that people forget, people have children in other countries. It's not just here in the United
Yeah,
States. You know what I mean? Like there are
yeah.
children in other countries as well. So there are resources and all kinds of things. But I get again why sometimes there's that fear there of either uprooting your family or starting a family abroad or having a young child and moving. So that's great. I'm so excited. I'll
Yeah,
definitely link to that as well. Now,
absolutely.
what would you say is the greatest lesson having a business has taught you about yourself as a woman?
Mm, that's such a good question. The greatest lesson that have, to be completely honest, and this is not going to be the answer that you're expecting, but running a business, specifically running a business in this country, has taught me about the importance of self-care, which
Mm.
is which is not expected because, and I'm speaking on this because I know the process of running a project and how I did it when I was in New York versus how I'm doing it now. And I think that a lot of people think that running a business has to be being up until 3 o'clock in the morning, never getting sleep, not living a healthy life, like, and having there be a quote unquote struggle, which sometimes is the truth. But I think something that when starting LNBS, and this is part of the reason why I think that it's been so sustainable, is because I put such a focus on self care. So when my brain is tired, I stop. I make time each week to be with friends, to do things, to be active. And I think, honestly and truthfully, I think that having that balance allows me to, one, work smarter, not harder, to two, do less things that have bigger impact, because I think that that's also something else that is very easy to get caught up in, thinking that I have to do everything and I have to do everything now. But it's like, no, you learn what you need to do, and you learn the things that when you do it, it'll actually make a big difference instead of getting lost in all of the nonsense, you know. And I also think that when you're living your best life and really putting a focus on yourself, your mental health, your physical health, and wellness, you are more stable and you're more capable to not just start your own business, but to lead a team and to be able to like do meaningful work, you know? And so I think that a lot of times when people think of entrepreneurship, they think of this like insane struggle and papers flying everywhere. But I think something that I've really learned since being here is that it's possible to do it and to have that balance and to still be like a sane person, you know?
That's excellent. Now, do you think
Yeah.
that's part of the culture that you're in now that has made you have that sort of awareness about self care can be and should be a part of your business and who you are?
Yeah, without a doubt, because I think that work-life balance in Europe, especially in Spain, is so different than what it is in the States. And I think that if I wasn't living in Spain, I would absolutely probably have a different sense of entrepreneurship and how I kind of went about it. But I think that since moving here, I've really put a focus on like making sure that I feel centered and balanced all the time. And I've just been able to find that like when I'm my best self, I'm able to be better for everyone else around me, you know? So it's not just benefiting me, but it's benefiting all of the people that I work with. It's benefiting the people who are on my team. It's benefiting my friends and family. And you also come to find that it's infectious when you see the people in your circle and you see that they're pushing themselves to be the best versions of themselves, and it kind of makes you want to do it even more, you know? just I think it's also so important to have people to be smart about the people who are in your inner circles.
Right.
You
So
know?
what does your support network look like? Speaking of your inner circle for
Yeah.
yourself and for your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So my personal support system, I'll be really honest. I'm a very social person, so I have a lot of different colleagues, and in Spanish we would say conocidos.
Hmm.
So like people who I know and like who I spend time with. But when it comes down to people who I will proactively reach out to and spend time with, I can maybe count on two hands. So I have a very, very small inner circle, but the people who I have in my inner circle know me very well and well enough to be able to also feel comfortable calling me out, you know?
Hmm.
And so, and also I'm very close with my family. So between my family and Danny, who works with me on LNDS, and after almost 3 years of working intensely together and speaking every day, we've become best friends, and she now knows me better than a lot of other people do. And so between her and then a couple of close friends that I have here in Spain, I'm able to kind of have people to keep me accountable on being balanced, on not working so much, on like being able to kind of like continue to challenge and push myself in a lot of different aspects of my life. And I think that it's really important to kind of have quality over quantity. Quality
Hmm.
over quantity is so important.
I love that. Now, thank you so. This has been amazing. I could talk to you all day.
Oh,
Um, I just have a couple other questions for you.
of course.
If you think over your life and career, and you had the chance to thank only one person whose support was critical to you personally or professionally, who
Mm,
would that be, and what would you say?
this is so tricky. Uh, can I choose two people?
Yes,
No.
you can. You can.
Okay. Okay. So the first person that I would say is my mother, 120%, and it's her birthday today. So
Oh, happy birthday, Mama.
yeah. So I would definitely say my mother because when I was growing up, it was just me and her for a very long time, and so we learned very quickly and very well how to be a part of a team. And she always pushed me to be better, to do more, to kind of like break the norm and to be the best version of myself. And of course, when you're a child, you're kind of like resentful, like, man, mom, I don't want to, you know. But then as we've gotten older and as we've gotten even closer of a relationship, she's one of my best friends. I'm constantly grateful because if I hadn't had those rules or that lifestyle growing up, I wouldn't be where I am now. And so I've definitely learned from her how to make a way out of no way, how to be creative to be able to get to where you want to be in life, how to be grateful, which is something that I think that unfortunately so many people lack. But I mean, I wake up every morning and I literally write down three things that I'm grateful for, because if we don't, it kind of helps, we lose a sense of who we are and what we actually care about. And so I would absolutely, absolutely say my mother, and I would tell her, I wrote this to her in an email to like tell her her birthday message and everything, but just how grateful I am for her being such a strong, resilient woman. And then again, like teaching me those same lessons, whether she realized it or not. And then the second one would be my grandmother, because my grandmother is my heart. And just the same kind of thing, growing up with a lot of strong women in your family, you kind of learn the importance, and you learn what strength really looks like. And not what society tells you strength is, but you learn what it really means. And my grandmother is she's such a fangirl. She's my biggest fan, and she won't even know what I'm doing. But just,
Right.
yeah, she'd be like, oh, I'm so proud of you. And I'm like, but for what? She's like, well, everything.
Right.
And just having someone like who shows you endless love, I think really, really makes a difference as well. So,
That's amazing.
yeah.
Thank you for sharing that with us. That's
No,
beautiful.
of course.
I love it. Now, how can we support you? One of the final questions and things I want to make sure everybody knows. How can we support you? Tell us where to go, the websites, and all that great stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely head to lasmorenasdeespana.com to check out the website. And if you know of people who are either interested in travel or living abroad or moving abroad or just living their best life, definitely share it with them and let them know. If you are in the area, or even if you're not in the area and you're interested to come to the conference, definitely make it out. And just follow us on social media. All of our social media handles are Las Morenas de Espana. I'll spell it LasMorenasde. Espana. And also on my personal as well, because aside from the business, I'm very big on photography and creativity, and also just like constant daily inspiration via my Instagram. So so feel free to follow me at, I'll spell it, Siempre Girando, SIEMPREGIRANDO. But yeah, so feel free to reach out also whenever. My inbox is always open. And feel free to reach out if you're in town or you want to make the move to Spain or even come to visit. Definitely reach out and or go to the site and link up with us, and we will be happy to help and talk. And yeah.
That's awesome. Now you said to reach out. Is that to do that through the site, or is there an email? Not that you don't have to give an email. I always tell people, but is there a place, or on the site is there a contact page where people should go?
The site on About Us there is contact information, but because you're wonderful and I love your readers, I'm going to give you guys my personal email address. Okay. So you can reach out to me at Sienna, SIENNA, at Las Morenas de Espana.com. Awesome. And yeah, my inbox is open. I'm always happy to help.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much. This has been absolutely great. And one thing that you mentioned while you were talking just then, you mentioned you do photography and all of those things. So can people get in touch with you too about potential projects and that kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely.
Work on other things as well.
Yeah, because so a part of the business, again, entrepreneurial spirit, but apart from the business, I also do photography, videography, and web design. So I work with a variety of different people. Like I've worked with some journalists to even some people who are, like jewelry makers, to kind of create and shape their story for them. Because again, I do have a ton of experience in communication and branding. So if you're ever interested in something like that, definitely reach out and I'm happy to help.
Awesome. Just a well-rounded woman. I love that. So before you go, can you offer our listeners a parting piece of advice about anything?
Yeah. My parting piece of advice to all of these lovely listeners would be to not let fear hold you back. Because I think that that's one of the biggest things that people struggle with. And whether that's fear of like not thinking that you're good enough or fear of not thinking that you're ready, know that you are. There's this really great and simple quote that I love, but it's such a testimony to my life. So it's this quote, and it's, she believed she could, so she did. And it's that simple. But honestly, just like having the faith in yourself and thinking like, this is something that I want to do. Yes, I'll be able to do it. Like, this is something that I want to tackle. I'll be able to do it if I just put my mind to it and try. It's so funny. Last anecdote. But I was looking at a past journal from over 3 years ago, and I had written out intentions and things that I wanted to accomplish. It's something that I had completely forgotten about. And I looked back 3 years later, and every single thing that was on that list had come to life, and I had done it. And it's just something where if you think about it, and if it's something that you truly want to do, and you continue to manifest it, I'm huge on vision boarding, like it will happen, you know? So yeah, believe in yourself and don't be afraid to kind of take the lead.
I love that. That was perfect. Sienna, thank you so much. This has been
so much for having me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I can't wait to come visit. Now that you told me you have a 2-bedroom, I'll be there.
100%. Please.
Awesome. Hold on just a second. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you so much for listening to that episode of the Support is Sexy podcast. And I do hope that you got some inspiration from it. And the challenge is for you to do at least one thing. Take one thing from the episode, at least one thing. You can always do more, but at least one thing that will help you move one step closer to your dream. Whether that's launching a business, writing a book, whatever that thing is that you want to do, take something from this episode and move one step closer. And what I'll also ask of you, if you can tell me what you think about the episodes, what we've been doing, what you want to hear, what you like, what you experience while you're listening, go over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let me know what's going on. What are you thinking? What are you feeling about the show? What else can I do to be of service to you, which is what this is all about, to be of support to you. That's our buzzword, right? You can also go to our website, supportissexypodcast.com. That's supportissexypodcast.com. Hear more episodes there. Also have a bunch of great videos, tons of information. It's where I'm going to be spending a lot of time, and it's where I love to connect with you. So again, thank you so much for listening. I truly appreciate you and your support. And the most important thing I want you to remember is having it all does not mean doing it all alone. So now, go out there and create something sexy, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.